Hello everyone, I'm some random cuber, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to solve a 3x3 with the A355 method. Before getting started, I would like to say that my Discord server is almost done. So please, if anyone wants to volunteer helping to create the server, it would be very appreciated if you comment down below or friend me on Discord. My username is in the description. And yeah, one more thing before you get started. We are so close to 50 subscribers. So for the 50 sub special, I was thinking of doing a Q&A. So leave your questions in the comments down below. Or if you have any other suggestion for the 50 sub special, you can also leave it there too. And yep, that's it. So let's get started. There are 5 steps to the A355 method, which could be broken down into 8 steps using beginner version of the A355 method. So the steps are creating a cross, so like this, and this could be broken down into 2 steps, of course, daisy and cross, which are shown on my beginner's method tutorial, link up here. The second step is to have 3 more corners at the bottom layer. So completing, for example, these 3, it doesn't have to be, it can be any 3 corners, but it should look like this at the end. The next step is creating an F2L-1 cube state, like this, so adding these 3 edges to the corresponding 3 corners. The next step is to solve all of the edges, like this, all the remaining edges, so that you only have 5 remaining corners. This step could be broken down into 2 steps, which are first solving 3 edges, and then solving the last 2. The last step is solving the whole cube, so the last 5 edges, and this again could be broken down into 2 steps of the first 3 corners and then the last 2. So let's get started. For this tutorial, I'm not going to show how to solve the cross because you should already know this, and if you don't, it's on my beginner's method tutorial. So for the second step, in which we put 3 corners at the bottom layer, if the cross is white, let's look at the top layer for a white corner, for example this one. So now we move it over the position of where it needs to go, and then we insert it by holding it on the right and doing the sexy move, which is RU prime U prime, however many times until this white sticker is at the bottom. And not like this, you have to make sure that this piece is on the bottom, like that. So now once we have this corner, we just move on to the next one. We look at the top, see where the corners are, make sure it's over the position where it needs to be, and you can make sure that it is by looking at these stickers. So seeing that this is the orange and the green, needs to go between the orange and the green centers, and of course white to white, which will go down here. So doing the sexy move once doesn't solve it, so we do it again. No. And now it's solved. So these were all like different versions that a beginner could do it, but if you're like an intermediate solver and like you know how to solve this intuitively, like let's say you had like a case like this, you know to just do RU R prime, or if you had a case like this, instead of doing 5 sexy moves, you could just turn over here and do L prime U prime L, like that. If you have the corner on the top, this is a pretty cool trick. Because we don't care about the edges or too many pieces, we can do this move. So R, B, U2, B prime, R prime. For this step, there is again a beginner way of doing it and an intermediate way of doing it. So we again look at the top layer for edges that aren't yellow. So for example this one, it's blue and orange. So for the beginner way, we would make sure it's on this orange side. If you want to see the better way of doing it, which is the actual way used in the method, here it is. Okay, so this intermediate way of doing it, which is the way that is shown on the actual method, looks like this. So in here we're going to use the keyhole technique, which can also be used for doing regular F2L on a 3x3 on regular CFOP. So it looks like this. So what you do is, since you have this one slot left, you can use this as the keyhole. And now you can, let's say, because you want to solve this edge, right? It's the green and orange edge. Find out where it is. If it's not on the top layer, then just move on to the next edge. But if it is, like here, you just move it somewhere, like so you know where it is, I guess. And now you can do a D move or a U wide that looks like this, the first two layers, so that the keyhole corner is over this slot, right? So these two, this piece needs to go here. It doesn't matter currently if these centers are correctly positioned, because that's basically the only thing that we're altering here. So let's see, if you have this edge, in order to insert this here, you can do R, U prime, R prime, and now you can see they match the colors. And make sure that this color does not match the color on this of the center, because if it did, like this, and you do like from the left hand side, you can do L prime U L. If you did this, the edge would be flipped, so don't do this. Make sure to do it like this, so that the color is not the same on the center. But let's say that you do have it like this, just turn it U or U prime so that it's on the other center that matches the edge. And now, because this is on the left, do L prime U L, and now it's in here. Once you have solved this one, just keep going the same direction you went. So let's see, now you got an orange, blue. Look at the top layer. You can see this edge is over here. Move it so that the color doesn't match the center, because if it was over here, it would match. So make sure it's over here, and do L prime U L because it's on the left. So now that you have these two edges, move on to the last one, like this. So blue, red, here it is. The colors match, so move it over here, L prime U L, and now finish it off by matching the centers. Let's say that your edge over here is flipped. You can just take it out with R U R prime, and now you can see the color matches, so move it over here and do L prime U L, like that. If, for example, this edge, the edge that is green and orange, wasn't on the top layer because it was over here, it doesn't matter, just move on to this next one and find the edge that needs to go here. Make sure the colors don't match, insert it, and now you can go back to this slot and find the corresponding edge wherever you put it on the top layer, and now do, in this case, R U prime R prime. In order to solve these 5 edges, we need to break it down into 2 steps. So this first sub-step would be solving the first 3 edges of the top layer. Solving would mean having both the colors on the corresponding centers like this. So in order to solve the edges, I will need to move this edge to the top layer so that yellow is facing up. So worrying about this color first, we move this up. But we can't move it with R, we have to move it with F prime. Because if we move it up with R, we can see that the yellow sticker isn't on top. But if we do it with F prime, we can see that it is. So you can see, like, if the yellow is over here on the side, do an F prime like that, so that it's on the top like that. So now, before doing the F back down to fix this block, we have to move this edge to the back over here, because that's the second color. So orange goes over here to the orange side. Now we can undo this first F move. Now if, for example, in this case, this edge in the slot is not yellow, you want to replace it for an unsolved yellow edge. So looking at the top, of course, this one is solved. So we want to replace it with the corner that isn't solved. So let's take this corner and do R, U prime, R prime to insert it to the bottom, but do a U to fix this last edge. And now, well, we could see actually that this edge is also solved. So since we have now two edges, and even if you have one edge that is solved and the rest aren't, I'm going to show you what to do from now, because you can't just repeat the same thing, do F prime, and then move it to the correct position, then do F, because you can see that ruins up this original solved piece. So what you can do from here is, because you know this is the blue piece and it needs to go over here, move it to the position where it will go. I move it over here because this is a place that the edge will go once I do the F prime. So now once I did the F prime, I know that these will all be solved relative to each other, which basically means that if I do a U right now, these will be solved. For U, it might be a different U move, but in this case, it's a U. So right now, what I will do is swap it for this last unsolved edge, or this last non-yellow edge. So now I do F, and you can see in this case it solved all of the edges. So if I do a U prime, in this case, all of the edges will be solved. But let me show you what happens when there's two final edges and you can't solve them. Okay, so by now you should have three edges solved like this on the top layer. So this means that these two edges are not solved. So there are two algorithms to do this. One if the yellow is on the side, and one if the yellow is on the front. I'll show you for the side first. So if it's on the side, make sure that this edge, which goes over here, so the non-yellow edge, it's on the right. So now that it's on the right, do this algorithm. F prime, U prime, F, U prime, F prime, U prime, F. And now just to solve all the edges, we do a U prime to adjust this U face so that the edges will be solved. And now you can see all the edges are solved. But if the yellow sticker is on the front, like this, make sure you move it to the front like this. And now do R, U, R prime, U, R, U, R prime, and finally adjusting the last layer so that all the edges will be solved. For the last two steps, we turn the cube upside down like this so that the yellow face is upside down and this front slot is on the front right like this. And now we will solve all the corners. So first, by solving three corners from the yellow layer. So in order to do this, make sure that there's a yellow corner over here in this slot. And then if there is no yellow corner, I will show what happens later. If there is, look at the colors and see that it's green orange, which is this slot. So this corner needs to go over here to where this corner is. So what you want to do is do a D move, and now do the sexy move once, or however many times you need until this yellow corner is facing down, so that the yellow is facing down. And now, not looking at the rest of the cube, just continue on to the next corner. So Let's see, this corner is green and red. So, it seems like it needs to go between the green and red edges, like this. So move it over here and do sexy move so that this corner will be at the bottom right here. So you can see if I did the sexy move once, the yellow sticker still isn't at the bottom, so do it again. And now that this yellow sticker is on the bottom, we can move on to the next corner. So looking at this corner, it's yellow again, so it's blue and red. So between the blue and red edges, so move this slot over here under this slot and do sexy move until the yellow is on the bottom. And now that it's on the bottom, since you've solved 3 corners, you can stop right here and move on to the next step. Let's say, for example, in any corner, in any step or of the corners, this corner up here, it's white, it's not yellow. Make sure to move to an empty slot. So right now there is no yellow solved corners, so it doesn't matter. But let's say that there were, like here, make sure to not put this corner over here. Make sure to have an unsolved corner over this slot. And now do sexy move once. And now just continue on regularly. So you can see this corner, it's yellow, and it's orange blue. So orange blue edges are over here. And then you have 3 solved corners, so on to the last step. Okay, so let's say in this case you solved these 3 corners. So move this last unsolved corner over to this slot where this corner is. So now do the sexy move however many times until either the cube is solved or like here where these 2 corners are twisted. So if it's solved, congratulations. But if these 2 corners are twisted, then this is what you should do. So now this step might be kind of confusing for beginners, but what we're going to do is rotate the cube so that these 2 twisted corners are at the bottom layer, on the D layer. So like this, these 2 are twisted on the bottom layer. So now we can do from here, make sure that this corner is over here. Let's use this slot as the buffer, or what we used from before, like the previous step. So do sexy move until you can see this corner's oriented. So now move on to the next corner. Sexy move until this corner's oriented. And now you just fix the last layers of the cube, and then you're done. So now on to some pro tips. So pro tip number 1, this might be kind of obvious, but color neutrality, which basically means solving the cross on a different color than white. So this is considered a beginner method from the Speedcubing wiki. So I will be showing the white cross, but just know that you can do this on any cross color. For the corners, you can, like I said before, actually insert the corners without rotating the cube like this. So if this is on the back and it needs to go over here, do R prime U prime R like that, so that the pair is now on the back. And let's say this is over here, do L prime U L, and now the 3 corners are solved like that without even rotating the cube. Also, let's say you have a case like this in which the white corner is on the top. I'm going to show the finger tricks for all the positions on how to not cube rotate. If this is on the front left slot, it looks like this. If it's on the right slot, it would look like this. I did this because I am not too good with lefty YouTube flicks, but you can definitely use that if you're good with that, or if you're lefty. If it's on the back right, you could do it like this. If it's on the back left, it looks like this. So yeah, on to the next step. So kind of like how I just showed you how to do the corners step without rotating, you could also do the edges step without rotating. So you could use either D's or U wide in order to turn between the edges. Let's say it's on the back. Once you finish the corners, you could do a D prime like this. Or if it was on the back left, you could do a D like this, and you could do it from the left, no problem. So let's say you have this red-green. Look for the red-green, you see it's over here. So what you could do in here is just take it out like this, move it back, and then do inverse sledge, or sledge, like side sledge or something, I don't know what it's called, like this. In this case it's for the left. Now because I'm right-handed, I want this slot to be on the right. So what I would do is I would move the D instead of going on to the next one with a U wide. I would do a D, and then I could see that this slot's edge is over here, so I just do inverse sledge. Then I could do a U wide, and I see this is flipped, so I could do the flip algorithm from 4x4, which is taking it out with RUR prime, then inverse sledge to insert it, and then a wide U, and now you have the F2L minus 1. Another way you could do the corners and edges steps is, well, this is F2L minus 1, so just do F2L without one slot. So you could do that if you want to, if it's faster for you and you're already used to CFOP. If you don't want to, you could also do this, whatever you choose. So for these edges step, I feel like that was kind of confusing. So what you could do is look at the top, see if any edge is oriented, and if it is, just do the U moves to solve it, like this. You could see that this goes in the back, so move it over here. If I do R, I would solve it, and then insert a yellow edge over here so that you could go on to the next step like this. So here we have this edge, it needs to go here, we can see. So move over here, do an F prime like this, U2 F, so that it would take this one in. And now once you have these three edges, you can solve it again, just like I showed. There is a faster way to do it. So if you are color neutral, this might be easier to you. You can, like in here, instead of already matching this up and see that this goes here, you could start from here, and you can see that since these two colors are opposite, you need to make this the opposite, so that, and these two would be relatively solved. And I could like do a U2 to insert this edge in. That might be like more complicated stuff. Okay, so let's say you had a case like this. So you have these three solved, but this yellow edge is over here. My first instinct was first do the same thing I would have done if this edge was yellow. I just put this on the front right here, and then do R, U, R prime, U, just the regular algorithm. And then I would reposition the edges and do the same thing. But there's actually an easier way to do this. So what you could do is take this edge in either with RU prime R prime or with F prime U F, like this, so that this edge is in this slot. And you can see that two of these edges could be solved, but this one can't because it goes over here and it's unsolved. So what you could do in this case is R, U prime, R prime, make sure that it's on the unsolved edge. So if these two are solved relative to each other, this one isn't, do R, U prime, R prime, so that this edge goes to the back, and then you'll see that all these edges are solved. So this is just a easier way of doing it instead of doing both algorithms once. So yeah. If you really want to go advanced, you could find a way in which all the edges are oriented, and then make sure to set up to a case like this where these two are solved but this one isn't, and then do R, U prime, R prime, and of course solve these edges. This step is pretty useful in the Hayes method, which I will release a tutorial later on sometime. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So a tip for the final step, the corners. Actually, it seems like in this case all the corners are twisted, and that's kind of complicated. I'll cover that soon. But first, I'm going to show you a faster way to do it before the last two edges, in which they aren't all rotations. Okay, here I got a case in which it's not all rotations. So a way to do this is you could memorize how many sexy moves you should do for each position of the yellow sticker. So in this case, like, this needs to go over here, and I could memorize that since this is on the top, it would take me 3 sexy moves until it's solved on the bottom. Now onto this one. Instead of doing 5 sexy moves, if it's in the front, I could do inverse sexy move, like this. Don't do a lefty sexy move like this, because whenever you do a sexy move, it only messes up these pieces right here, these 3, and then these 2 and these 2, so these 7 pieces. And if you do this, it also messes up more pieces, and that would mean that once you complete everything, it won't come back to a solved state. So make sure to do only sexy moves and inverse sexy moves. So like this, I could do inverse sexy. So that is a faster way to do it, because you can see instantly by looking at the sticker where it would be. So now let's go on to corner twists. And if you don't know this, I will try to explain it the best I can, but it's pretty hard to explain it. So here we go. Okay, so let's say you're solving the cube with the beginner method. So you've already had 3 of your corners for the first layer, and now you just want to get their last one. And let's say that it's in the correct slot but twisted. So what you could do is, in this case, because I know from experience that because it's on the right, if I do sexy move once, it'll be set up for a sexy move insert like this. But I know that if it's like this, I need to do sexy move once, but then it'll be on the top. So what I could do is instead an inverse sexy move, which looks like this, so that once I raise this up, the sticker's on the top, but I'm gonna still put it on the same layer, so that once I turn it down, it'll look like this, and then I could do inverse sexy move to insert it. So in other words, this case takes 2 sexy moves to solve, like this, and this case takes 2 inverse sexy moves to solve, like this. So how does this help me do corner twists on the last 2 corners? So in this case, you got the last 2 corners over here, and you put them on the bottom like I said in the tutorial. And in this case, instead of straight up doing sexy move twice and seeing that it doesn't work, and then twice again, and then it would be twisted, what I could do is notice where the green sticker is. In this case, it's green because this green side is on the bottom, right? So the green sticker is in the front. And remember from before that if the sticker is in the front, I'm going to do inverse sexy move. So I'm going to do inverse sexy move twice. And now, thinking about it, if I would do sexy move twice right now, it would solve it, right? But so it would solve the pieces, and it would also twist this back. So I'm going to do inverse sexy move twice, and now I'm going to move it to this next corner. And now instead of doing inverse sexy move or whatever, I could see that because I did 2 inverse sexy moves before, I could do 2 sexy moves right now to fix it all. Double inverse sexy move twists it counterclockwise, so right now it needed to be twisted counterclockwise, and if I did 2 inverse sexy moves, it twisted it counterclockwise. So now I over here, and I do 2 sexy moves, which would twist it clockwise, and that's how I know whether to do double inverse or double sexy move in this step. There is an even advanced approach. This is pretty complicated, but it's basically the same thing that I did, but just holding the cube from a different position so that it's easier to finger trick. Based off of what I've shown you so far, you would be able to solve this case, right? Let's say that these two are unsolved, so put them on the bottom, and I could see that since yellow is the bottom color, and I have this on the right, the yellow is on the right, I could do double sexy move, go onto this next edge and do inverse sexy move, and then it would solve these 2 corners, right? So if you remember from my mathmeeting.com layer by layer tutorial, from my 4 layer by layer methods tutorial video, unlike the Goku method, which in order to twist the corners flipped it upside down and did the sexy move, mathmeeting.com stayed like this without cube rotating and doing R prime D prime RD twice in this case, and that would do it. And then R prime D prime RD 4 times, which is basically sexy move but upside down. So I could do the inverse of R prime D prime RD, and that would twist this corner the other way like this. So how I like to finger trick it is hold it like this, and since I know from practicing this algorithm a lot that if the yellow sticker right here, it's on the right, I go like this, and then I go to this next corner and undo that. So if you guys know commutators and commutator form, it would look like this. So I finger trick it like this. And in order to solve this, I would just do this move first, and then this. So I think that's faster than doing double sexy or double inverse sexy. You can decide that for yourself. So how I solve this case on the cube is I basically see that in here, when I finger trick this algorithm, this side, it's kind of on the top. I hold it kind of like this. But since this is on the top, I do this, right? So if you guys caught that, the first move I did, the 2 twisted corners, they went down like this so that they're in the front right side right here. So now I would do this and then continue like normal. So in this case, you could see that these 2 twisted corners are already on the side. So what I do in this case is I look in here, I can see that since this sticker is pointing this way, this is the green sticker, because these 2 are twisted on this side, it's the green sticker, so I can see it's pointing this way, so this one will point this way. So I act as if these 2 corners were on top before, and it was the T case for OLL. So now I do this algorithm, but I basically cancel into the algorithm. Instead of doing this R prime again, I basically stay like this and continue on with the algorithm. And now I raise these 2 up, move on to this next one, and now the 2 corners are twisted. This is kind of hard. If you want me to, I will leave these 2 algorithms in the description. So yeah, that's basically it. One last pro tip. is using commutators. So if you guys don't know what that is, I'm not going to explain it in this video. I might make a separate video, or just go watch JPerm's video. He explains it pretty well. It's up here. So commutators, let's say I could solve this edge and this edge like this. This is the interchange. Moving over here, solving this one in here, undoing those moves. So if that's faster to you, that's another way, but that's just a more advanced way of doing the 8355 method. So that's it. I will now do an example solve. The scramble will be on screen up here. So follow with me, green front, white top, and let's scramble. Okay, so once you're finished, the scramble should look like this, or like this. So, let's see, Daisy could be, you could look at it like this, so, you could do R for this edge, F for this edge, L2 for this edge, U, R, like this. Now solving all the edges for this one L2, U prime R2, this one also, and finally this one. So now that you have the cross, I'm going to stay on this side, trying to solve the corners from the back without cube rotating this corner, because it's already in the correct slot. It could be put in like that, like this. U, L, U prime, L prime. Now it's solved. Same as this one. And then for this last one, R, U, R prime. Okay, now onto the edges. We have this edge. It needs to go over here. So I'm going to take this out before I move this empty slot over here. And now putting this in here with inverse sledge. Now doing a wide U over here, we can see this edge is flipped. Now onto this last edge over here. Again, inverse sledge. And now wide U. So now onto solving the edges. Let's see, this edge is already solved. This edge is in the F2L spot. So it needs to go over here. This edge. So moving this over here, R, U prime, taking this one, R prime. So now because this one needs to go over here, we put this where it needs to go relatively, and then taking this last edge down. Now doing the right algorithm. So R, U, R prime, U, R, U, R prime. And then U prime to fix all the edges. And finally, flipping this over, I will do the corners. So as you can see, the corner over here is white. But instead of doing sexy in order to move this corner up top, it does move the corner up top, but it also makes this corner have yellow on top. And that means that I would have to do 3 sexy moves instead of if I do inverse sexy like this, in which case I would only have to do 1 inverse sexy move when I get to this spot. So it needs to go between the red and green, inverse sexy, and it's over here. Looking at this corner, it needs to go over here, also inverse sexy. Now you could see that this is white again, so move it over to another corner. Again, inverse sexy because this yellow sticker is in front of me, and insert it over here with inverse sexy again. So now that you have 3 corners, have this over the last slot, and do sexy move until in this case, well, everything is solved. So that's basically it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like if this video helped you, or if you learned something. Comment down below your fastest times with this method. Subscribe. I will upload every other week another method tutorial. This was the first method tutorial that I think was pretty unpopular comparing to CFOP or Roo or ZZ and stuff. So yeah, also leave your questions down below for the Q&A or any other comments that you have. So that being said, see you next time. Bye.